I live in Santa Barbara, California. I moved there after living in Nashville for over 20 years. And what I love about where I live is that I've always been inspired by the water. I lived in Nashville for 20 years by a beautiful lake, and that was a real great getaway for me to just kind of go and think and let my mind wander, which you kind of need to do when you're a songwriter. And when I had the opportunity to move to California, to move by the ocean, I jumped at the chance because I love how water makes me feel. I love the creativity that I tend to draw from that. Some people draw creativity from the mountains. Some people draw creativity from the desert. For me, water has always been that thing that inspires me, that makes me want to be creative, that makes me want to write. So I moved to California, and I have a little spot underneath some eucalyptus trees where there's a wooden bench and it's secluded, and I'll go out there and take my notebook and just let my mind wander, and I get a lot of ideas there and a lot of inspiration from just my surroundings. It really puts me in a great creative space. I moved to Nashville because I wanted to be a songwriter. I lived in Indiana at the time, although I had moved around a lot. I was originally from Oklahoma, had moved around with my family a lot and lived in Indiana, and I just desperately wanted to be a songwriter. And Nashville is where all the songwriters I was a fan of lived. And so I moved here not really to make it in the music industry. I moved here really to learn how to write songs. And I didn't realize when I moved here just how much the Nashville community is built on songwriters. It seemed like everyone I met when I moved here was a songwriter, or used to be a songwriter, or wanted to be a songwriter. And so that was a great environment for me to learn how to write songs, and also to meet people. Once I started writing songs that were a good enough quality to be recorded, that was a great networking place for me to be as well. I really learned the craft here. Before I moved away from Nashville, I kind of did a little experiment. I did a 30-day retreat on Cape Cod by myself, spent 30 days in seclusion pretty much to write songs. And that was a little bit of an experiment, but what I found in this day and age, in the age of the internet, you could kind of write songs from anywhere. I felt like I was established enough where I didn't necessarily need to be here all the time for a networking purpose. But as far as writing, I could Skype with people, I could MP3 files, I could do a lot of the things that I would do anyway from living in California. I think there is an element when you're starting out in the music business, there is an element of needing to be here, needing to meet people, needing to socialize in a way that you can't really do over the internet. But for me, I had already lived here 20 years when I moved away, and so that was a good established point for me to leave. I really haven't felt like moving away from Nashville has hurt my career. I feel like I'm still as productive, I'm still getting the cuts, I still write as much as I did when I lived here. If not more. I feel like sometimes being outside of Nashville has helped me be more creative, just in the sense of originality and being inspired by where I am. I've got a lot of great friends in the music business. That's one of the things that I love, is the community of songwriters and artists that I've worked with. Janet Pascal is a dear friend. She's like my sister. I worked with her for several years on the road, and we have a love for songwriting that we do a lot together. So anytime I get to spend time with Janet, that's just like going home to me, and we always have a great time and laugh way more than we should, and we always write songs that we're proud of. Before I played the piano for Janet, I played for a little while for Alison Spear. She was one of the first artists I met when I began writing. my publisher at the time set me up in a co-writing session with Allison, and we really hit it off. So I worked for her for a little while on the road on a part-time basis, and then when I met Janet Paschal, that was a full-time gig, so I took that instead. But Allison's still a dear friend, and we still write together, and I'm still real close to her and her husband Brian.